My wife really likes this place called Meetfresh. It's a Taiwanese dessert place. It has these taro balls, all this stuff. It's pretty good. Standards are consistent across different franchises or locations. I don't know if it's franchise. But we're looking at locations. She was like, how many are there in California? I was like, oh, they're in all other places, right? Some in Arizona, in the Phoenix metropolitan area. There's even one in Illinois. I was like, oh, it must be Chicago, but it's actually not. It's in Champaign, where there's a big college campus. And so I was thinking, actually, going through all the lists, there's like 20 something in California, because it actually correlates the locations they have with the Asian population, which makes a lot of sense. Asian people like go there. When we went to the one in Westminster, they're basically all Asians. There's a lot of Vietnamese older people. They're realistically probably middle age, just enjoying having a fun time. There's lots of other Asian people, but it's just like if you like this kind of Asian dessert, go there. It's good, right? And the thing is, I was thinking maybe there's something called a Meetfresh metric. You could look at how many meat freshes are in a particular location or their density and know your Asian population in that area. I'm sure there's other places that correlate, like Tasty Pot or this or that, right? But the thing is, when you think about it, Minneapolis doesn't have one. Minneapolis has a decent amount of Asians. They have a little Asian area. But I think they actually don't have that many Asians, realistically, compared to other places, right? And that's the thing about these sort of metrics. Like we use saying how much this stuff costs. Well, this costs 2 Big Macs, basically, right? Because currency doesn't convert exactly, right? It does convert, but it's not the same as purchasing power. You may be able to buy a meal for $5 in China. That's a nice meal, right? But then in the US, $5 get you nothing. It doesn't convert exactly, right? But purchasing power, if you could have them equivalent, right? And so rice, not every place eats rice, right? Bread, well, not every place eats bread, right? But what about Big Macs? McDonald's is plentiful across the world, right? How many Big Macs does that cost, right? I mean, metrics, those are interesting ideas of how we could compare stuff, how we could have a proxy for measuring, right? You could look at the numbers and say, okay, this has a population this. Well, what does that mean? Do you say it as a percentage of the total population? Do you say it as a density? There's different ways of measuring stuff, right? But all these companies like Meetfresh, I'm sure they've done their research and say, okay, this area can support us. And that's why they build more, right? I guess they're going to build another one here in this area. But then there's caveats to metrics as well. Pinkberry. It was the first frozen yogurt place in the US. They're from South Korea. Red Mango is apparently the original, but Pinkberry was big in the US first. And I remember there was one in Rancho Cucamonga near my med school, and we liked to go there. And my cousin took me there. I was like, whoa, amazing. They have this tart, like, yogurt flavor, and you mix it with this fruit that's sugary. It's delicious. But Pinkberry has few locations in Southern California now. They've actually closed some locations. Why is it? Is it because there's competitors now? Right? I think Meetfresh is still new enough there's not competitors. But once you have competitors, it's like, well, is it there's not a population to support them? Or you have to split that audience now. And that's also the issue with metrics, right? There's caveats. There's confounding factors to why this is or this is not. And you may not know it. If you don't know the area, you may just make a presumption, right? Like, oh, this area Panda Express doesn't do well, and you come up with some reasons, which may not correlate to the actual reasons Panda Express doesn't do well. And the thing is, when they make calculations about doing business, I think companies not just look at whether they're doing well, but I think they look at lots of different factors as well, right? There's some cachet to having a location in this or that. For example, Jen, it's a Korean barbecue place. They list their address as Huntington Beach. You're like, you're in Westminster, you're not in Huntington Beach. But I guess Huntington Beach sounds better. It's just like Banks. Why do you have these downtown locations and nobody goes there, right? I mean, you don't have no parking. Why am I going to go to downtown LA, pay for parking myself, and go to your branch, right? Also, if I withdraw a lot of money, it's more likely to be mugged. But there's a cachet. So there's all these other factors that go into it. So metrics, a good rule of thumb, but not accurate. But for now, I think the Meetfresh metric, if you're trying to find where there is decent Asian food, a large Asian population, let's just see if there's a Meetfresh in town.